Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, star maker for entrepreneurs who want to unlock their potential, command any stage, and make blockbuster profits. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a brand that makes you happy and profitable. Here we go. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, and welcome to this episode of Thrive, the Penguin Lady and Entrepreneurship with my guest Diane DiNapoli. Diane DiNapoli is an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, and the author of the award-winning book, The Great Penguin Rescue, that tells the dramatic story of how Diane helped save over 40,000 penguins off the coast of Africa from an oil spill. On this episode of Thrive, Diane talks to us about how following her intuition led her from studying dolphins in Hawaii to studying penguins in the South Pole. She shares with us why it's so important to have a clear sense of mission to make really great things happen, both in your business and in your life. And finally, she talks to us about the importance of building platform and exposure in all levels of your business to get in front of the right people. Diane is a true example of how following your heart can lead to an adventurous, successful career. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, and welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a more abundant life and business. You're in for high-value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. And I am so thrilled to have my special guest here today. Diane DiNapoli is a penguin expert, TED speaker, and author of the award-winning book, The Great Penguin Rescue. The book tells the dramatic story of Diane's experiences serving as a rehabilitation manager during the rescue of 40,000 penguins from an oil spill in South Africa. After working as a penguin aquarist at the Boston New England Aquarium for 9 years, Diane began traveling the world as the Penguin Lady, teaching children and adults all about biology, behavior, and conservation of the penguin population. She appears often on local and international radio and TV, including CNN and the BBC, and has been the guest expert on ships traveling to Antarctica and the Galapagos Islands. This December, she'll be returning to Antarctica with Homeward Bound, a groundbreaking women in science leadership development-based project based in Australia. Diane has spoken at 4 TEDx conferences and has written and narrated a video lesson about penguin conservation for TED Ed. Her talk about the Treasure oil spill rescue is featured on the main TED website. Her mission is to raise awareness and funding to protect endangered penguins, and to that end, she donates 20% of her proceeds to penguin rescue groups. So, after much trials and tribulations, I am so thrilled to have you here. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here this morning with you.
So I know that you are an adventurer because you have adventured with me through the technical issues of getting here. So thank you so much for your patience and perseverance in showing up today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So now, penguins and the study of penguins is not an everyday thing. It's not something people, wake up and usually say, hey, let's talk about penguins today. But so what drew you to studying penguins and learning more about this and really dedicating your life to helping that population?
It was actually an accidental career. I had always wanted to work with dolphins. So from the time I was 5 years old, I was obsessed with dolphins. And it just seemed like this impossible dream. So I didn't pursue it. No one knew how to tell me how to have a career working with marine life. And when I was 30, my parents gave me an expedition, Earthwatch expedition as a gift. And so I chose to spend a month in Hawaii working with dolphins. And when I was there, I realized that I had to pursue this lifelong dream of working with dolphins. And so I applied for an internship there, and I was rejected. And so they said what I needed was a different educational background because I had a liberal arts degree. So I actually went back to school for a Bachelor of Science degree in veterinary nursing. So I could apply for a position. And I did. 2 years later, I got that position, became a dolphin trainer, and it was amazing. And I still had a full semester of rotations left my senior year in college. And so I went to the New England Aquarium in Boston and worked in the penguin department there. And so really, as soon as I got into a wetsuit that first morning and stepped into the exhibit and was surrounded by 65 penguins, I kind of fell in love with them. And so that's sort of how the whole penguin thing began. I always say that the dolphins led me to the penguins.
I love that. And now, one thing I wanted to touch on is that you said you did um, a whole other degree just to be able to apply for something. Now, that took a huge leap of faith.
Yes, I mean and it was kind of crazy when you think about it, because the odds were against me. I was 31 years old when I was going back to college, and I knew I'd be competing with much younger people for these positions. But I also knew that I did not want to get to the end of my life and look back and regret that I hadn't at least tried to do this. Because I'd always wonder, what if, could I have done it? As unrealistic as it seemed, I didn't want to live with that question mark and that regret. So when I did go back to school, because I knew the odds were against me, I came up with this mantra that I would repeat to myself. And it was, someone has to get that really cool job of working with dolphins. So it might as well be me.
I love that.
And I believed that would happen with every fiber of my being. I wouldn't let self-doubt creep in. And I put that out there and I believed it completely, and it happened.
So that was such a powerful thing. So what would you say to other people who are going after these sort of unusual big dreams? Do you think it's a mantra? What are some other things that really helped you? Because a lot of people have mantras, right?
Mm-hmm.
How were you able to stick so, diligently to that and keep that forefront? And how would you help other people to do that?
I think, it's about believing in yourself, believing you can do it, you can make it happen. I think you have to have that faith and confidence in yourself. It also, I think, helps. I'm a big quote collector. I love inspirational quotes by other people. So Goethe was his quote about, once you begin, the universe will conspire to help you, essentially, is what it says. And so I have other quotes that I would hang on my computer armoire that I would look at and read. I would think about my sort of heroes and idols like Jane Goodall and Sylvia Earle, and people who, I hoped to be more like, hope to be more like as in my career. So, yeah.
So it was super saturation, right? It wasn't just one mantra that you thought of when you woke up in the morning. It was like, I turn to my computer and I see it, and I brush my teeth and I see it. And it's, you were dwelling on it a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I was.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because, there are so many, I've read this research about negativity, that our brains are designed to keep us safe. They're not designed to make us successful, right? They're for survival. And so our brain pays more close attention to things to see if it's dangerous or not.
Right.
So if it makes you uncomfortable in any way, your brain perceives it as danger. And I read that I think you have to have 3 positive thoughts, experiences, just to break even, just to counterbalance that negative perception, just to get to ground zero again. So I'm a big believer in what you just described, and you're a testament to that positivity of, you have to really keep nurturing that in yourself.
Yeah, because as a younger person, I was extremely prone to negative thinking and self-doubt and negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that was crippling. It really, I think it's part of what kept me, in fact, it's completely what kept me from pursuing this dream until I was 30 years old. Because before then, I had so much self-doubt and so much self-criticism and even self-loathing when I was young. And so it wasn't until I came to sort of love and accept myself, warts and all, and believe that I could do these things if I put my mind to it, that I was able to do it. So I
So where,
think that's important. That's shifting in the mindset.
what enabled you to do that? What was the catalyst from, because I think most people have that baggage that comes with them. So why, I'm trying to get at that point, like how were you able to shift it?
Right. And this is not something I talk about often, although I did in my last TEDx talk for youth. It really began when I was living with two friends, both of whom were alcoholics.
Mm,
And one of them got sober and began going to AA and Al-Anon. And Al-Anon is for people who are affected by other people's drinking. And so she had parents who were both alcoholics, which is why she
mm,
was going. And I saw this change happening in her and
mm,
her just becoming more peaceful, her life going better. And when she
mm.
asked me one day if I wanted to go to an Al-Anon meeting with her, I'm like, yeah, it seems like that's working for you. I'll go. And I went for years and I really think even if you don't have someone in your life who's an alcoholic, it
Mhm,
can help you because it
mhm,
really teaches you it's all about acceptance of self and of others
mm,
and kind of letting go of control of things you can't control and most things
mhm,
you can't.
mm.
um, and loving accepting yourself include warts and all. And
Yeah,
so really that is where the mindset changed completely for me. And I
yeah.
also read at that time, and I'm not a religious person, but I found at the time the book really helpful. Norman Vincent Peale,
Hmm.
The Power of Positive Thinking.
Hmm.
That was a huge mind shift for me too, reading that book.
Yeah, I've heard of that book too.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that, it doesn't matter if it's Al-Anon or some other group. I think having support and people who are of like-mindedness because if you're surrounded by people or situations that are negative, that are not trying to follow the enlightened path, it's a lot harder
Mm.
than when you have a support team that is saying, yes, actually, you can do this. And um, I think that's why it's so important for people like you or people like me or people who are on that path to have a voice to show other people that it is possible to shift like that. I think it's incredible. And I love that the result of your shifting was penguins. I think that's so cool.
And
So,
totally unexpected.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that part of your story too, that it's the part of letting go of what you think should happen and
Mm.
allowing what can happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the most surprising thing for you about shifting from dolphins to penguins?
Well, I think just in terms of the animals, what surprised me the most about the penguins when I first met them that first day was that they each had such a unique and distinct personality, like each individual. And I hadn't
Wow.
expected that because they're colonial birds.
Yeah.
And and I was just sort of charmed by them. Like they really had these funny personalities and were very interactive and they sort of remind me of cats in a way. They're smart, they know their name, they'll come over when you call to them if they feel like it. And if they don't, they'll kind of look at you over their shoulder and swim away. But it was just the fact that you could relate to them on an individual basis that sort of captivated me.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was why should we care about penguins? Like you might have an idiosyncrasy that draws you to penguins, but why is it important for everybody else to care about penguins?
Right. That's a great question, actually, because even though penguins are this very iconic species, and I worked with them for 9 years at the aquarium, and I've been teaching and writing about them for 20 years, and I love them, it's even for me about the bigger picture.
Mm.
It's about the environment. And so penguins are actually an indicator species. So
Oh.
they're near the top of the food chain. And so when we see their populations crashing, which they are
Mhm.
precipitously, most of the penguin species, their populations have declined by 90% over the last,
Whoa.
yeah, 50 to 100 years.
Wow.
Populations are crashing. The main two issues are global warming and overfishing.
Mm.
So when we see their populations crashing like this, it's an indication to us that there's something wrong with their environment, with their habitat. So
Mm.
it basically means we're killing our oceans. And that essentially is important for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I totally believe that. I mean, what is it, 60 here today? It's
Right.
February in Boston
Yeah.
I mean, I went out with
Great.
no jacket on today. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
This has
crazy.
been a crazy warm winter. And then I was
So,
just with some people yesterday. I went to a reading for a woman who wrote a book about doing Iditarod, and she said in Alaska, the last 5 to 6 years, it had almost no snow. It's
wow.
shocking how evident global warming is in Alaska.
So why do you think that it hasn't really, I mean, we hear about global warming and we know it's a problem and, I recycle my bottles, but why do you think that it hasn't really become the firestorm issue that it maybe should be?
Oh, we could get into a whole political discussion here.
Well, it's interesting because, we're talking about being enlightened, right? I mean, we're following our passions and we're living on one planet that we share. It's important,
Right. I mean, I hate to point at any one political party or religious affiliation, but there are certain people that have big bucks behind them
Hmm.
who, for whatever reason, it all comes down to money.
Hmm.
The oil industry, there's all these industries and the lobbyists that have so much money and so much power and control over what our politicians or what certain politicians do. It makes it really, really challenging. And for so long, this money that they poured into this denying climate change has sort of brainwashed the masses, because in
Hmm.
reality, and they will say still to this day, oh, people don't cause climate change, et cetera, et cetera. But today, 99.9% of all scientists around the world agree climate change is real and humans are having an impact on it.
I mean, all you have to do is look out the door and see. I mean, here,
Right.
you just, it's totally obvious that things are shifting for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So that makes me think about having a voice. And I'm all about, it's so important to have your voice, to be authentic. And when you think about, when the average person thinks about an oil company and the billions of dollars, that you think, how can I impact that? Right? How can I make a change? So I'm going to ask you, how can I make a change? How can the individual person have more of a voice in global warming or in any arena?
Right. I think it's very easy to become overwhelmed and shut down because you
Hmm.
feel like I'm just one person. What difference can I make?
Hmm.
And I've seen evidence in so many different scenarios, that one person can make a tremendous difference. And
Hmm.
so, in terms of global warming, I mean, there are so many things that each of us can do in
Hmm.
our own home, in our own community, to reduce our footprint on the planet, to reduce your carbon output. And there are, you go to carbonfootprint.org is just one of the many websites you can go to learn.
Hmm.
You can just find out what your footprint is currently and steps that you can take to reduce it. And so, I equate it often to the oil spill rescue. We had 12,500 inexperienced volunteers come to help us save those penguins.
Wow.
Now, one person alone, we could each do our part, and we each did. So without each individual who was there, we couldn't have saved those penguins. Together, we saved a species. And
Right.
I look at it in a very similar way. Each one of us can do our part. And, if nobody does anything, nothing's going to change,
Exactly. That's
right?
exactly what I was thinking, is that it's, you think, oh, what could I do? But that's letting yourself off the hook,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we
You
each
know,
have to take responsibility, personal responsibility. And if we do and we inspire those around us to do it and they inspire the community, it's sort of like that Clairol commercial. I told two friends and two friends. Some of you who are old enough will remember what I'm talking about.
no, I've never heard of that.
I know, I've just heard about it too. I'm much too young to remember. But it's that same concept, right? And so it just spreads. It's like a ripples on a pond, and it keeps spreading outwards.
Yeah, I think it's, if you live in a free society, I think it's your responsibility. And I'm not just talking about global warming.
Right.
You have a voice. You have a voice. And by playing small, you are denying someone inspiration to change the world for a better place. I really believe that. So,
That.
and the other thing I think is, I love the catchphrase, why not me?
Mhm.
Why not you? You had that calling and you win for it. Like, how many people had applied for this scholarship or the place? And
250? Yeah.
so someone's got to win.
Right.
Why not you? I
Right.
mean, it's like American Idol. Someone is going to win. It's not like they're going to send everybody home.
Right.
And the other thing is that it's in the journey of applying and going for it, because maybe you don't win, but all the other lessons that you learn, all the connections that you make, how you grow and evolve by going through and putting
Mm,
yourself on the line. Say you don't get it,
yeah,
you still win.
because you've tried. Yeah, you've put yourself
So
out there.
because you've tried.
You don't know if you'll
Yeah, absolutely. So what are,
yeah.
exactly. And what's going to happen to the planet if we do nothing, right? I mean, so let's make it easy for people. What are like top 3 to 5 things that the average person could do in their life right now today to make a shift?
Oh gosh, there's so many little things, but flying less, um, taking public
Mm,
transportation, or walking more, or riding your bike. Um, just as simple little
mm,
things like turning off the water when you're brushing the teeth, and turning off the lights when you leave a room.
mhm,
It might not seem like much, but it does add up. It does count. Those are small ways. I mean, there are other ways you can, when you do fly, if you do need to fly for business or vacation, you can pay for carbon offsets. So there are a lot of different things you can do. If you go to a website like the uh, carbonfootprint.org, you'll find a lot of
mhm.
tips and things that you can do in your everyday life that can make a difference.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is to understand that it does make a difference, because it might be like, uh, so I turn the light off. What big deal?
But if
But
everybody
if
does,
a
right?
billion people turn,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So part of getting your voice heard was doing
Mm.
TED Talks. Can you talk to us a little bit about that experience, and what it was like preparing, and how you
It
got
was
the
yeah, it
TED
was
Talk?
actually TEDx. So for
TEDx. Okay.
if people aren't sure exactly the difference between the two, TED is the main conference that happens in California. Costs $8,500 to attend in person, and then
Hmm.
TEDx are TED-like events. They're done under the umbrella and licensing of TED, but they're independently organized. And
Hmm.
so there are now, I think, about 13,000 licenses globally, and they have to
Hmm.
abide by the rules and regulations of TED. And so I had become a huge TED fan. It was around the time I was writing my book, and I never thought in a million years. I mean, it was sort of like, wow, that would be so cool to do one of those talks. But I didn't think that my subject matter
Hmm.
was sort of TED worthy. And my book
Mm.
came out, and then there was an article in the Boston Globe, like a 2-page spread about my book and my work. And one of the curators for TEDx Boston, in fact, her daughter saw it and said, "Mom, you should invite this woman to speak at TEDx Boston this year." And so she did. And when I tell you,
Hmm.
when I got that phone call, I mean, I was like, the teenage girl who just got asked to the prom by the cute guy. And I was jumping around the room screaming, and I couldn't believe it. And so that talk was about the penguin rescue, and it wound up
Hmm.
being featured on the homepage of the main TED website for 6 weeks. And
Mm.
so, yeah, wow. I
Wow.
mean, amazing. In fact, the curator called me, and she was just as excited as I was about it. And once that happens, you're considered a TED speaker, and which is, yeah,
Awesome.
awesome. And then I've done 3 TEDx's since then, and then um, wrote and narrated a video for TED Ed, which is the educational branch of TED. It's like a 5-minute video, and they did a beautiful animation
Hmm.
that goes along with that. So it's been a really
That's awesome.
exciting um, platform to have the opportunity to be on, because
Hmm.
between the first TEDx and the TED Ed, I think it's been over 500,000 views of the videos. So, and
Mm.
my mission is to raise
Wow.
awareness and funding to protect penguins. So it's just been an amazing opportunity for me to reach more people with my message,
Hmm.
because it's not
Hmm.
about me at all. It's really about the penguins and about doing everything I can to help them.
Yeah, and I love that, because you're talking about having a mission, and yeah, you haven't said this yet, so I'm assuming that you didn't wake up when you were a kid and say, "I want to be a speaker when I grow up. I want to be."
I'm laughing because I'm laughing
You
because
laugh.
I was so terrified of public speaking. I couldn't even do like an oral report in class. I mean, terrified, terrified. So
Mm.
no, I did not say that.
Hmm. But I love that because it's about the mission and you do things that you wouldn't normally think you would do because you want to get your message out there, your mission out there. And I think that's that in itself is such an important message for everybody because it, you don't get the exposure without being seen,
Right.
without being heard. You have to get your voice out there. And you don't have to be a professional speaker. You don't have to be an opera singer to do that. You just have to have a belief in what you're doing and have the passion to be of service, I
Exactly.
think.
And it is about when you have something larger than yourself that that you want to raise awareness about, you have to step into your fear. You have to kind of you have to push the fear down. You just have to do it, and you're motivated and inspired to do it because you have this bigger mission in mind. So it helps you
Right.
sort of overcome the fear. I mean, you'll be afraid, but you do it anyway. And then the more you do it, the less
Yes.
afraid you become. And eventually you find when you're talking about something you're so passionate about and you're knowledgeable about, it eventually becomes easy and fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that people sometimes shy away from taking ownership of their mission. So how did you, I want to say this the right way. How did you get to a point where you said, I am the representative of this mission?
You know, it's interesting you asked that because when I first started my business, so I was at the aquarium for 9 years and I was a senior penguin aquarist when I left. And when I left, at first I didn't know what I was going to do. And about a year later, I started my business, The Penguin Lady. And when I had to come up with a title for myself, I really struggled. I wasn't sure what to call myself. And I thought back to what I was called besides an aquarist at the aquarium, and that was a penguin expert. And so I thought, okay, I guess I'm a penguin expert, but I felt like an imposter. Like I didn't feel comfortable with that title for a long time. And it took me a while to own it because I'm like, well, you know what? I am a penguin expert. I mean, I'm not out in the field. I'm not a field researcher, but I worked with these animals every day for 9 years. I helped save 40,000 penguins from an oil spill. I was a manager during that rescue. I have been teaching and writing about them. And I probably know more than, 99% of the people or 95% of the people out there. So I guess that does qualify me as an expert. But it took me a while to own that.
Yeah. So I hope you don't mind if I go a little bit deep here because when you're talking now, there's a little tiny, tiny edge of anger. And I love it because it's something that I talk about a lot that I believe that you have to get a little bit angry and that anger and passion are really closely, there's just like when you're really passionate about something, it's really closely aligned to that same energy of being angry. And I think that there's this fuel for a mission when you have that. Because if everything was honky-dory, if nothing needed to change, we'd all just be sitting back on a beach somewhere. But there has to be a little element of dissatisfaction, of anger, and I think it really is aligned closely to passion. So do you think that that's something that has to be triggered in a person to really take that ownership of that space?
That's a really interesting analogy. I never thought of kind of pairing the two before. And I think of it as more, for me anyway, frustration, which is close to anger, but frustration with the way animals have been treated and how we're treating the planet. There's some anger beneath all of that, I guess, but I think of it more as frustration and a desire to change things. So I do think that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I've got to think about what that cocktail is, because it might not be anger, it might be frustration, but it's dissatisfaction at some level. Because if you were completely satisfied, you wouldn't have the fuel to do the big thing.
I think another piece of it is sadness, because that it makes, number one, you see these things happening, and it kind of crushes your heart a little bit that animals in the planet are going through what they are. And that, I think, at least for me, I think that's maybe the root of it, like the love. First, there's the love of the animals and the environment, and then there's the sadness of what's happening to them, and then there's the frustration with this is happening, and that, I think, then comes together to create the passion to change.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Ooh, it's a journey. I love that. I love that. I love that. So you mentioned a couple of things when we first started about penguins, but tell us a few more things so that we fall in love with penguins too. I want to be seduced by the penguin.
They really, okay, I'll tell you the story. Just a very brief one is on top of my mind because somebody was just posting about this last night. I don't know if you've seen the video of Cookie, the little blue penguin who's running into a room and running over to the caretaker's hand, and he's tickling the belly, and they say, "Oh, the penguin's laughing." I mean, it's gone viral it's been on the internet a lot. Well, penguins don't actually laugh. What that penguin is doing, and what penguins will do with people who have raised them, is he's trying to mate with his hands. So it's not a laughing penguin; it's a randy penguin. So those calls are actually the vocalizations that they'll make when they're courting or mating. So,
so they're singing.
They're singing for their mate. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you said that they have all these little individual personalities. So tell me about, is there one penguin that stands out to you that maybe you really fell in love with?
So many. I think one of my favorite penguins at the aquarium, there's so many, I don't know where to start. Noir is one of them. I know.
We won't tell the other. If you pick one, we won't tell the other. Hi, everyone.
I hope you're enjoying the show. There's still more great content to come, but I wanted to take just a minute to talk to you about a new course I've created called Close Any Room. You may have noticed that all of my guests know how to speak about their businesses in a clear and compelling way. But that's something a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, and it's something you need to know how to do so you can convert your audience into more sales. And that's why I've created this course. It's a 6-week audio course to teach you how to craft a signature talk so that you can authentically give value and close more of your audience from the stage. In the class, you learn how to create a clear and compelling point of view, how to organize your content and give great value to your audience without giving away the farm, how to structure your talk so that it seamlessly closes your audience at the end without feeling salesy. And I also give you templates and instructions how to create marketing materials, a speaker sheet, and all kinds of sign-up sheets when you're giving your talks. And finally, what everybody's hot to know, I also give you tips and resources on how to find speaking gigs. It's an all-inclusive course so that you can start closing and selling more from the stage. And as my free gift to you for tuning into the podcast, I'm giving you my free webinar, also called Close Any Room, and you can listen to it at clearvoicebranding.com/close-any-room. And it will give you lots of tips and information to get you started on how to create that signature talk that sells. Okay, we're going to get back to the show now. There's still more great content to come. Thanks for joining me. So Noir, I'll tell you about Noir. He was the second rockhopper penguin that was born at the New England Aquarium. And the rockhoppers are the ones that have the little yellow feathers on their head, and these are the short crested, so they're small. And rockhopper penguins have a ton of personality. They're very bouncy and vocal. And so I hand raised him from the time he was a little chick. And whenever I go into the exhibit, he would just scream his head off and comes racing over to greet me. And the really cool thing, and this happens not with just Noir, but with a lot of the penguins there, is I left the aquarium at the end of 2004. And even to this day, when I go to visit, when they hear my voice, because they recognize you visually as well, even more your voice, he'll come start squawking, and he'll come racing over to greet me. So it's like, it's really cool to be remembered by a penguin.
Oh, I love that. That gave me chills because it goes back to the voice. It's about the voice.
As a singer.
Yeah, but I just, in all of the ways, it's like having a voice, being the voice, showing up as the voice for the penguins recognizing your voice. It's just, I love it so much. Love it. So if someone wants to find out more about your work, or if they wanted to fund a penguin rescue, how would they find that
So
information?
my website, which I'm currently building a new one, but the old one is still up, is thepenguinlady.com. And people can always email me directly if they have any questions, and that I can type it in here. Why don't I type it in? Thank you. You got it? You got it.
If
Okay,
I
great.
spelled it, I put it. And I put
Yep. And then
carbonfootprint.org
my
too.
email is just Diane, spelled DYAN, at thepenguinlady.com. So they can email me there. And if people want to donate to specifically to a penguin rescue organization, there are many. In fact, I have a whole appendix in the back of my book, The Great Penguin Rescue, that is a whole appendix full of different penguin rescue and research organizations all around the world, and with links to how they can donate to each of them. But the primary one that I support is SANCCOB in South Africa, and it's SANCCOB .zo.ca. Do I have that right? I'll have to double check that. I might be thinking of it wrong right now, but I will double check
Okay.
that.
Okay. All right. I
It's
won't write that.
go.za. There we go. I have to do it there it is. I just put it in. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
they have been rescuing
Awesome.
penguins for 40 years and primarily from oil spills, because the port is right, a shipping lane goes right past them. And that's where we were, in South Africa in 2000 for the Treasure oil spill rescue. So they do amazing work there.
Wow. Well, I love it. I love that you've been all over the world, and it makes me want. I mean, I could talk to you for hours because I want to hear more about your adventures and your stories. But before we wrap up, I do want to ask you one other question about voice and about the TED Talks. And I want to just work backwards on the timetable. So now you're out going to the Galapagos Islands. You've had all of these experiences. You're on the TED website. You did the TED Talk. You were in the paper. You wrote the book. So am I getting that backwards in order, sort of how it's backwards chronologically? So what happened before the book? So I'm asking this question, if there is someone else out there that wants to have that platform, but they're not quite there yet. What happens before
even
that?
to get the book deal, because I got an advance by Simon & Schuster's Free Press. And even to get that, you have to have a platform. So I had started my business. Let me see. I got the book deal in 2008. I had started my business in the very end of 2005. So I'd been in business for 3 years. I had a website. I had been, speaking. I had written some articles. So you do have to, and I had a Facebook page and I think a LinkedIn profile and Twitter, and had some followers. So it's important that the house wants to know, if you're going to go the traditional publishing route, that you have a following, that you have an audience, that you have an email list, that you have some credibility. So it's important to be visible online, and social media is important. So if you're hesitant about getting involved in social media, pick a couple platforms, because you can't do them all. It's just you'd be doing that 24/7. But pick a couple of the important platforms for your industry in particular, maybe, and be active on them. So yeah, it's putting yourself out there. It's making a name for yourself. And so without that, I might not have gotten the book deal that I did.
Right. Did you have that vision of, the book and like being a much bigger voice in the world? Did you have that vision when you were at the beginning stages of your business?
I think somewhere in there, yes, because my mission from day one was to raise awareness and funding to protect penguins. So it did. I just didn't know how to grow it. I didn't know how to get there. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't see the trajectory. I couldn't possibly, I had no idea all of the amazing things that were going to happen. When I left the aquarium and started my business, I really didn't know that it was going to be such an amazing adventure.
Well, I love this because it comes back full circle always to mission, mission and message. And as you were talking about the social media platforms, I was thinking, who cares? Who cares what platform it is? It really, if you have the message, if you know what the message is, it matters to some degree, but you wouldn't wear yourself out going on all the different platforms if you had the message clear, because you would know exactly what you're saying wherever you go. And so it's the clarity of the message, but also the connection deep connection and conviction of
Yes.
your mission.
Because I'll be honest,
So,
I mean, I did not have that many followers when I got the book deal. You know, I hadn't been
mhm.
on Facebook or anything that long. So it was more my mission and what I had been doing. And I had the website so they could see, you know, articles that had been written about me and interviews and all that. So I'd been active in what I was doing before
Yeah.
trying to get the book deal.
Well, and you're an expert. I mean, you were an expert
Right.
at what you did too. So you weren't just a newbie. You like really knew your
Right.
stuff, what you were doing. So what's the next thing on the horizon for you? What's coming up next?
I think the most exciting thing on the horizon is this Homeward Bound expedition that I'm going to be going on in December.
Mhm.
It's an incredible opportunity. It's a Women in Science Leadership Development Program. This is the first year of it. It's run by a woman in Australia, Fabian Datner. And there will be 78 women in science from all around the world in all different stages in our careers on the ship. We're going to be in Antarctica for 3 weeks. There'll be a documentary film crew filming this. And her
Wow.
vision, Fabian's long-term vision, is over a period of 10 years to train 1,000 women globally how to have a more effective and powerful voice at the global leadership table. And especially when it comes to issues like climate change, which is why she chose Antarctica, because climate change is so extreme there. So I see all these incredible collaborations coming from this, you know, teams developing. And so it's a really, really exciting opportunity.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. Although I don't know if I'd want to go to Antarctica in December.
Well, it's their summer. It's actually opposite hemisphere.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That's right.
because I was there
Okay.
in 2009. I was a
Right.
guest lecturer on a ship bringing tourists there.
Okay.
And it was actually about 25 to 35 degrees there. And it was when we had a cold snap here, about 20 below up here, and every pipe in the house froze and burst while we were away. So,
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
No,
I mean,
but-
not hilarious, but
yeah.
ironic.
yeah.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. And I'm so excited for you. And I was so excited to talk to you today. I mean, people were like, you're interviewing a penguin lady. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. It's wonderful because I love talking to people who are following their dreams and have a voice and have that mission and are really living out loud. I love it. And so I'm so excited to talk to you. And I always end my interviews with this question, and that is, in this moment, because there are lots of moments in life, but right now, as we're sitting here and sharing this space together, what are you most grateful for?
Oh my goodness. I think, you know, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but I'm most grateful for having had really loving, supportive parents who supported me on my journey. They're both gone now, but I'm very grateful for them and what they did for me.
Yeah, that's definitely a gift and a blessing because not everybody
Yeah.
has that.
I was
So,
lucky.
and look what I'm sure they'd be very proud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I am thankful for you. And as I said before, I'm thankful. Oh, man, I feel so honored that you're here and here, but also here in the bigger sense that you are the voice for the planet in a lot of ways, and that you've followed your heart and been a shining example for others to follow their heart and to trust and let go and move forward with your expertise and see where the path leads you, which is someplace really amazing and life-changing, not just for you, but for millions of people. So I really want to acknowledge you and thank you for being my guest here today.
Thank you
So
for
thank
that.
you.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Yes. And as always, for my guests that have come and are in the audience, as my thank you, I offer my free webinar on how to become a profitable speaker. And then you can get that free webinar at clearvoicebranding.com/close-any-room. So thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate your patience and persistence in making this happen. So thank you so much.
I'm glad we worked it out. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Bye. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Thrive. I loved having you here. I love having you as part of my community. And if you're enjoying the show, I would love it if you share it with your friends on Twitter, on Facebook, or wherever they're hanging out. I also want to let you know you can leave me feedback or comments. I love hearing from you. Just post those at heatherpoduska.com. You can also leave suggestions for topics that you'd like to know more about, or if there's someone you'd really like to see on the show, let me know that as well. Okay, until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care. Bye-bye.